So it looks like that we only have Exeter with us at the moment, but thank you very much for joining. This is the final webinar of the series, the competition series. And this one we will be covering Q&A. Apologies if there's any background noise. There is someone chopping a tree outside, but we shall move on and I hope it isn't too much of a distraction. Catherine Rue has joined us from Enactus UK. She will be in charge of the chat. So thank you for joining, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Tom.
No worries at all. Okay, so we're just going to continue and hopefully we might have some other people join. So it's going to be quite a quick webinar. It's just running just through some points that we feel will be useful for anyone doing the competition, which is every team. Okay, off we go. So why is Q&A important? It's really key for the judges to have that space to ask the questions that they may have heard something in your presentation and they're not sure exactly what you were referring to, or they just want a bit of clarity on some of the points that you said. So it's a space for them to do that. The judges also want to ensure that you are confident and sure of your business model and also the impact and how you've measured the impact. It's important for you guys to be very, very sure of this stuff. And that's where your university advisor might be helpful at this point to give clarity and support around business modeling. I appreciate that it's quite hard to be able to know all of this stuff. So I always just say, just utilize what you have around you. And also your program managers to ask them questions about the business model. Send them the scripts as well, something that I just wanted to highlight. Ensure that you're sending your scripts to us because we can ask questions as well. And that's the kind of stuff that judges might ask you as well. So just to continue. It's the last impression that the judges will have of your team and also the presentation. So make it count. If you're unclear about things or if you answer questions a little bit dodgy and not so confident, they will remember that, and that might be the difference between you succeeding or it may mean that you don't go through to the next stage just because of the Q&A section. So it's important to practice it. It's a skill that you can use within the workplace. That's definitely true. These are all skills. Anything that you do within Enactus, recognize it as a skill development process. Presenting and being able to be clear about your answers is a skill that you can take forward and utilize throughout your working career, but also just life in general. And yeah, just finally, the judges can see that if you're answering the questions correctly, that's when you're talking about the projects, that there is a kind of a strong sustainability aspect to it. If you know what you're talking about, they can see that there's more chances that this project is going to continue and last. So talking about the vision for the project, but also the mission, the process for it to be able to grow is important. The judges want to be able to see that. Okay. What type of questions are asked? So this is just what was pulled together. There may be other points that you can think of, but these are just some that were highlighted. So questions that could be asked could be about the projects that you presented, most likely, but also the projects and the overall team finances and the business model, again, as what I said earlier. About the presenter's personal experience. Now, this is a really good time for you guys to show your passion behind why you joined, maybe not just Enactus, but the project and why it was important for you and why you want to see it grow. And yeah, it's just be passionate at this point. Yeah, clarification on any confused points. It gives you that opportunity to really show what you can say. And if there's any points that are quite that sound quite confusing about your project, it might be around the impact measurement. This is a chance for you to be able to highlight those in better ways. What else we got? yes, plans for expansion of the project. As I said earlier, it's just really, really key that you know what you're talking about, and that you're thinking big. You know, this project that you're doing, it might be at early stages, but always think about how can this become a really sustainable model. How could it become, you know, where could a revenue stream come into this instead of just funding coming in? How can, if you can see some kind of pathway and really think about this before planning your presentation, because those are the kind of questions that might come up.
Just going to interrupt your flow there, Tom, quickly.
Sure.
We've had some new people join.
Fantastic.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Can you please just put which university you're from on your group chat and your name if it's not part of your name already? Thank you.
Thanks,
Carry on,
Catherine.
Tom.
No, that's great. Thank you. I can't see the chat, so Catherine's in charge of the chat. So she's very helpful to me right now. So all I can see is the screen, which should be the same as you guys. Let me know if you can't see it. So we're just running through what type of questions are asked. And there'll be questions that are related to your support network as well. So again, I keep saying about the sustainability of the project and longevity of it. When you're talking about and highlighting that you have a support network and who they are, and also saying about your project partners, it makes the project sound much more like it's going to exist and keep existing. You've got touch points with people, you've got resources coming in from different areas, and it's not just you and the team, because if the team graduate, it's a new team coming in. They may not have the same support network around them, and if you haven't done a good enough handover, it may affect the project's development and the strategy moving forward. And yeah, questions can be asked about the presentation, but also your annual report. So yeah, there's a section which I highlight later on, which says about just make sure that you're being honest and open, and don't exaggerate too much, but I will reiterate that later. Okay, best way for the team to answer these questions. So split the question types between the team. You don't want one person answering the questions. It doesn't look so good. And also it's a lot of pressure on one person. So split the questions up into segments and really utilize each individual person that may know specific things about the project. So when choosing your presentation team, consider who might have the knowledge. So exactly, that backs up my point. So who may have the knowledge, the most knowledge about the project. It's no good if you have someone, and I appreciate that sometimes this has to happen, but if you are having a team leader or people from the committee talking about the projects, then they really, really need to know it inside out. So again, you know, points said earlier, business model, be clear on the process of what's happened, where you are now, and also the growth of the project, and be realistic. Ensure you have somebody, maybe team leader, who will answer any curveball questions, or if somebody doesn't answer well. So yeah, some questions you may be surprised by, and it may catch you out, but that doesn't mean standing there and going, is really acceptable. Again, that will just be painful for everyone. So it will be useful if there's a question that you're not prepared for, that you've already kind of selected someone who's good at that approach about, I wouldn't say avoiding the answer, but highlighting something else that you've done that contributes to the progression, that helps you to sound like, you know, maybe you haven't answered the question exactly how they wanted you to answer it, but at least you've come up with something that supports and shows that you are professional about your thinking. What is your policy on adding another present? Sorry, I'll say it again. What is your policy on adding to another presenter's answer? Again, just be clear. and make that decision beforehand if you're going to go around that route. So if someone does answer a question, it's okay that someone else comes in and develops on it. Again, you just don't want people speaking over each other. So as much preparation as you can do beforehand, and just thinking about these things is important for you guys. And yeah, deciding on the day who will answer the questions. It looks much better if more than one person answers. So I said that earlier. But I have seen some presentations that one person has answered all of the questions, and it's been a team leader that comes on who didn't do any presenting, who comes on and then does answer questions. It's okay, but you look like a stronger team if you're up there and you've got different people answering different questions. Just shows that you've been more prepared, and everyone is on the same level and really passionate about what you're doing, and it shows by people being confident about answering questions. Okay, so what makes a good answer? If you add more information, challenge each team member to bring in extra information. So the more the merrier, basically. More information you can have is better. Tell the truth. The Q&A is audited, so we will listen back to your answers, especially if you're talking about impact. So really, just whatever you do, don't lie to make yourself sound better. I know that that sounds like something you wouldn't do anyway, but it's important just to highlight that because it is audited, and we do want you to be in the best position for going through to the next stages. If you know there is a problem with the project, I guess, or at least some challenge that you're facing, it's likely the judges will pick up on that. So don't expect that they won't. And again, a bit of honesty does go a long way. But instead of saying things like, oh yeah, well, you know, this is such a challenge that it means that the project may not succeed or go forward. Think about answering it in a more of a positive way, and you would have considered, okay, so this is a challenge we're facing now, but what we're looking to do is blah, 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 blah. You know, so it's that kind of, you know, it's not just a dead end and there's a problem. You're thinking solution minded, which is going to sound better. Yeah, okay, so speak clearly, take your time, listen, think, breathe, and step forward to answer the question. So those are really good kind of key points to think about when you are stood there. Really listen to the question and just take that moment and then step forward and just be crystal clear with what you're saying. And answer the question kind of as quickly as you can immediately to show, well, I'd say to show confidence and professionalism, and that you've practiced. Yeah, personal story is important, and yeah, structure your answers. So all good stuff. So how to practice your Q&A? So with the criterion, sit down, all of you lot, and do, I don't know, you could do a little quiz, basically, a questions and answers session. Ask each other and test each other. Just ensure that you really understand the criterion, and that will help you when thinking about what kind of questions are going to be asked about your projects. In every run through, practice answering the questions. Yeah, just keep practicing. 5 minutes on, feedback, 5 minutes off, and repeat. Every time you practice, ask someone new to listen and ask questions. So that's a really good way to be able to get an external person in to ask questions that you may not have thought about before. So every time you practice, just find someone to come and just stand in front of you and note down questions. And it might be useful to have a team member sat next to them who jots down those questions. So afterwards you can learn what those questions are and just be clear on them. Okay. Ask a question based on every sentence in the script. Well, yes, I guess that would be the best way to go about it. That is best practice, but you know, you don't want to get caught out. So be crystal clear. 17 minutes isn't a long time to present. It might seem like a lot, but some of you would have been practicing already, and there's a lot of information that you can say about your project. So I guess, yes, look at every sentence of your script, because every sentence you say is of value. So I guess any question that is asked related to each sentence, you want to be able to answer. We've got a big never here. Never let a bad answer go through. Work together to improve it and ask again. A good presentation team will spend the vast majority of time practicing Q&A. I do agree, it is a massive part of this, and it can be put aside, and all you do is just practice the script. So please put time aside to really digging deep and considering what questions will be asked. And as I say, have an external person come in. That might be your university advisor, but if you keep using your university advisor every time you practice, then you'll get the same questions most likely. Mix it up as much as possible. Okay, so we've got some top tips here, useful top tips. Know who's covering what area. This will avoid speaking over each other. So I've highlighted that earlier, really key. Pause before answering, speak clearly and with conviction. Be clear, passionate, and yeah, just know what you're saying. Ensure all information is correct and not over-exaggerated, because if it is, that's when you're going to be tested. If something sounds a little bit far-fetched, the judges will pick up on it and they'll question you about it. Be proud of what you've done, and don't try and think that if you have more impact numbers that your project is going to go through to the next round. It doesn't work like that. It's more about the sustainability of your project and the quality of impact. The more you know, the better. Watch previous Enactus national presentations. I've learned a lot from that. And you can see the different styles as well, which is really, really important for you. Yeah, just have a look through the different years too. I quite liked Sheffield's one from 2014. That's worth having a look at. And yeah, the final point is practice, practice, practice. Keep practicing as much as you can, and just make sure you practice with people who are there to give you feedback. All right, so that's basically it from me. I'm going to ask Catherine to join now, and basically we're just going to have an open Q&A session. So if you have any specific questions about your, it may be related to the questions, it might be related to your script. Catherine has been to Nationals and been through the process, I believe.
I have indeed. Yes, I have indeed.
So she has some super good insight for you. So
I have a question from the chat,
okay,
which I will. Are you happy for me to read that one out, Tom?
Read it out, and yeah, go for it.
Brill. So, are we able to bring on additional members to the presentation team on stage for the Q&A? I would say yes, you are allowed.
Yes. Is the answer.
Yes is the answer, yes.
Yes, you are.
Not loads. You can't bring the whole team up.
Well, I think it would get a little bit bit messy.
Busy.
Yeah. Perhaps if you've got someone who isn't a part of the presentation team but knows a lot about the project, definitely bring them up. But practice with them. Don't just assume that they're going to be able to stand there and answer the question correctly. Practice with them. So yeah, ensure that they do this question stuff too.
Yes. Shall I share a bit of my experience, Tom, from when I was at Nationals? Would that be useful?
I think so. If there's no other questions for the moment, then fire away.
Oh, I do actually have another question, so we'll pause me. As a rookie team, I've been told that the Q&A session at regionals would look more like a feedback session. If we have some gaps of information whenever the jury asks us a question, is it okay to admit the gap so they can give us directions to it?
The jury?
Yeah, as in the set of judges.
Okay.
By the way, you're not on trial at Nationals, at regionals. Tom, would you like to start?
Yeah, with the rookie, the Q&A Yes, it's very much, it can be a bit more of an open discussion. They will ask you questions and can only give you feedback, but it's not so heavy.
Yeah.
I still think it's worth you practicing as much as possible with the questions. Yes, it will be a bit of a feedback, but then, you know, you want to be clear on your answers. Again, you don't want to just be there and not know the answer. So yes, you'll be gaining feedback, but yes, they will also ask you questions as well.
Sonia's just put as well, saying that she understands that it is the panel of judges is what she meant. Yeah, just to add on that, also,
Sure.
I think from a gap perspective, I think it's really important, you know, and this is not just for rookie teams as well. I say this for the wider, the teams that are in the main league as well. Yes, admit gaps. If you don't know, don't make something up to cover up the fact that there's a gap there. But also just saying, you know, I don't know, is very different to saying, I don't know, but we have plans to look into this in this way. So I think it's, you know, we know there's a gap, but this is how we want to fill the gap, where it's a case of, we're actually not sure about how to fill the gap. Can you help us? Obviously, that's not something you could do at nationals, but I think as a rookie team, yes, it would be much better to admit the gap than create a response that is either false or inaccurate.
Yeah, it's very much all of this, and especially regionals. It's a space for gaining. It's gaining feedback. It's gaining support for you to be able to grow your projects, to be able to grow your strategy moving forward, and especially for a rookie team, it's a really, really good time, and see it as that. Don't see it too much as too competition focused. We do what, you know, you'll be a rookie this year, but then in the next year you will be, you know, competing for nationals. But we want to be able to get you to the point where you're going to be able to go to nationals. So that means that we will support with creating strategy with you, and giving you key bits of feedback that we want you to implement for next year and pass that on to your next kind of cohort that come in.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions that people would like to ask? I'm just keeping an eye on the chat.
That's
well,
good.
If there are people typing on the chat, because it's not like Facebook where you can see people chatting away or typing. Just as a short overview of my experience of nationals last year, or the thing that I would provide advice on, I think, Tom, everything you've said already is absolutely right. I think the thing that struck out to me is that if someone's answered a question and you know that they've perhaps missed something, you know, this is a nervous environment. It can be quite scary. Sometimes you can rehearse an answer to a question, but on the day, you know, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. You might forget something. If you're in the team and you know that there's something really important that needs to be added to that question, then just do add it. I think if you're getting to the fourth person who's adding an answer to a question, then maybe consider whether it's important enough that you need to contribute that piece of information. But generally speaking, if Tom were to answer a bit of a question and I knew there was one more sentence I wanted to add just to finish off that point, then I would do it. But I think, yeah, keeping your answers concise is also super important, because if you go on a long tangent and then fade away from actually answering the question, then that can be a little bit difficult as well. But yeah, I think it's one of those things, you know, relax, it's okay. We've all been there, and you know, we are ultimately, especially at regionals, there to support you. So the more you worry about the questions and everything, the harder it will be. So as Tom has said, just prepare, get new people in, get different people watching your presentation, because they'll think of different questions, as he said. And also don't be prepared when you're rehearsing to go, oh goodness, we actually don't know an answer to that question, and then go do your research and find the answer. Don't just go, oh, we don't know the answer to that question, and move on. Maybe they won't ask it, because sod's law, they will. So yeah, that's what I'd say. We have another question. Okay. In terms of how the judges will judge our presentations, should we be focused on impact we have achieved, or conveying that our project is sustainable, has the foundations to improve and remain for a long time?
And who's asking? What team is asking this?
This is Kevin from
Exeter.
I don't want to get this. Yeah, it's Exeter.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
It's a tough one, Kevin, because there isn't a scoring sheet that says impact, and then like a number, and then they grade it on number, and then sustainability grading it on specific like business model aspects. And it actually depends on the judges and how they view the project. So some people who are going to be there are very much they care about how you've impacted someone. So the level of impact, the different levels that we have, is it empowerment? Is it direct impact? Or is it changing people's lives? They'll make a decision on whether they feel like the project has legs. And when I say that, I mean the impact that they have is really change someone's life, or is going to change someone's life. And that might be just one person. But if the project looks like a really strong model, then that's got the sustainability aspect, which is more likely you're going to have higher impact and a higher form of impact as well. So I can't really answer that question, but what I can say is it doesn't necessarily matter about the number of people that you've impacted, but it's the level, I think, that's important.
Yeah, I think definitely keep those impact figures there. Mm-hmm. I do think show them. Yes. Because they are a really nice, tangible way of seeing the progress that you've made. But I think, the sustainability point that Tom's made as well is also super important. Yeah, I think, you could have, excuse me, you can have an amazing project that's had, great numbers. But if it's about to collapse after a month, then, the overall impact isn't necessarily going to be as strong. Cool. Another question has come in.
Great.
How much can the script presentation change between regionals and nationals? For example, say we solve world hunger in that time. Amazing question, Laura. Tom, can I take some of this one?
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
So my script from regionals to nationals changed quite a lot. Because we made a lot of developments. We realised that there were some bits that were actually super unnecessary, and not to mention in regionals, we actually went over the time by about 4 minutes. So we had to do quite a lot of change. You've got that freedom. There is, 3 weeks. You can get a lot done in those 3 weeks. The thing I would be wary of is changing things for the sake of changing things. If you know that something's working, it's like an if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of situation. So there's no, unless I'm wrong, there's no sort of legislation or rule about the amount of change that a script can have in between the time. I would just be cautious of going mad. Don't know if you've got anything to add on that one, Tom.
Gosh, I actually switched off there, Catherine. It's terribly rude of me, isn't it? I was listening to the birds in the background.
Sorry, I know the birds are super distracting, but they're also very calming.
They are calming. I think that's what happened.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone.
Now, what was the question? Just
about how much. Well, yes. How much can the script or presentation change between regionals and nationals? For example, when you solve world hunger in 3 weeks. Also, Laura, if you are solving world hunger, do let us know.
Yeah, ping us a message. I would say that yes. I'm sure that whatever Catherine said was 100% right, and I would back that by saying. It's very, very unlikely that you're going to have a perfect presentation to go to at regionals. So you'll have a script, you'll go to regionals, you'll get that feedback, and then I can 100% guarantee there won't be one team that hasn't got to change their script a little bit to add little bits of extra information that will support you at nationals. So be open to that change and see the regionals as an opportunity to get that bit of feedback, so the presentation is real tight. And I know that's a bit frustrating because you're like, oh no, now we're going to have to practice again and practice something slightly different, but the chances are going to be even greater when you do go to nationals, because you'll be saying the things that you'll be confident, because we would tell you that these are the things that you need to highlight, And then when you go to nationals, you'll be like, boom, we've got that. So yeah, good stuff.
Brilliant.
I think that backed up what you were saying, Catherine.
I think it did. Yep. Are there any other questions wanting to come in from the group chat? Here we go. Is it worth us talking about the fast stream? Tom, apparently you will know what Kevin's talking about here in terms of our sustainable way of producing new project and training members for years to come.
I'd say, good question, Kevin.
Is the fast stream a like a method of creating new projects?
Kevin, I'd say that was probably about right. Yes or no? You can speak, Kevin.
Yeah, you can, essentially.
If you wanted to.
Okay.
That's a good question.
If it's just a way of creating new projects, my query would be, how much has that contributed to the efforts that you've made this year in a cafe? Oh, I see. Thanks, Kevin, for your thoughtfulness.
What did Kevin say?
He's currently in a cafe, so he probably wouldn't appreciate the sounds around.
Is that your phone?
That is my phone. I don't know how it's. I apologise profusely. Reddit's just trying to get hold of me.
I think that you said a really good answer there, Catherine.
Yeah, I think if it doesn't contribute to the, you know, what progress you've actually made this year from a project perspective, because, you know, as Tom said, 17 minutes isn't actually that long a time. So if you've used that really successfully to create 3 new projects, then you can mention it, but you don't need to go into the full detail of that. And you can, if it's a contribution towards the sustainability of the team, then it's probably worth mentioning in a sentence, but I wouldn't spend long lingering on it. If people want to find out more about it, then they can ask. But I think the key thing is actually the projects themselves. So I don't know the full story, but I think if you're saying, we've created this fast stream which has helped us to achieve X, Y, and Z, and from that we have produced these projects. And then, you know, if people want to go into that in greater depth, then that's what they would like to do. That's what I would recommend personally, because you want to show the impact on the beneficiaries and you want to see how you've helped them and progress this year, as opposed to, you know, the actual methodology of creating those projects in the first place. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, you know, if this is something that you're developing now and it's going to be implemented next year is the time to say what Catherine's just said, which is how it has contributed to the development of the projects. Yeah, it might be worth, if you could squeeze it in a sentence, but, you know, I appreciate that it's a big thing, the accelerator, but I guess if you think about it like this, an investor doesn't want to hear about something that might work. They want to hear about something that's worked. So it's not, you know, it might sound fantastic, but it may not actually work. So there's no point mentioning it until it does work, and it has like created projects and it has like been very successful. That's when it's worth mentioning things like that.
Great. We've had another question come in from John.
Okay.
Yes, keep it to stuff that's concrete. Is that a fair way to summarize? I would say yes. That is a fair way to summarize that. Concrete or springboarding you into new horizons. Yeah. Question from John. We are planning to have a video for our nationals presentation. However, how necessary should we focus on this at all when it comes to regional presentations? When you say video, what do you mean?
It's probably a bit of the project, isn't it? They're probably highlighting a bit of the project.
Because my thought is, if you're wanting to put a video into your national presentation, I would recommend having it in your regionals one, because there might be things about it. Someone might say, oh, it's actually a bit long, or we'd love to hear a bit more about this, or, you know, let's get more graphics looking like this, that, and the other. Then you'll get that testing ground. Whereas if its first trial is at nationals, then you know, arguably a greater risk there.
Good answer.
Thank you, Tom. I try.
You do indeed.
Brilliant.
Has everyone put what university they're from in the chat?
Yes, so we had Deepti from Manchester, who I think is no longer on the call. She must have dropped out.
That's fine.
Recently. We've got Sonia from USW, and then we have a few people from Exeter.
Cool.
John, we are, apart from Manchester, we're repping the south here.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all thanks to me.
Oh yeah, of course. That's how it works, Tom.
I'm joking.
He's really not.
No, I am. I was luckily given
Kevin said.
the teams. Go on.
Kevin has said, "Ha ha ha! Nice try."
Yeah. Well, I fingers crossed I'll be working with you guys next year, so I can claim a bit more credit then. Maybe. I'm living off Callum right now, the wonderful Callum.
Brilliant. Well, there aren't any other questions currently in the chat. I think, does anyone have anything else they would like to ask? Oh, Kevin says they're buzzing already.
Nice. Fantastic.
Oh, look, you've got a little fan club, Tom.
What, just Kevin?
It would appear so.
Thanks, Kevin.
It's all right. At least someone's there.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't know if there are any more questions. Again, I can't see if anyone's typing. So, yes.
That's fine, I think. I think, things were covered, which was good. I thought the Q&A section at the end was definitely useful. So just to wrap things up, good luck for regionals and also nationals. I will see most of you, I think, in the next couple of weeks.
Yes,
but yes, reach out to myself and your university advisor, and also Catherine, if you believe that she might be able to be of help to you, which I can tell you she would be. I don't know. Everyone can make a decision in life, so
that's very true. Yes, judge me how you like.
Yeah. So, but thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
I hope you found it useful, and keep an eye out for any kind of posts that we put on Facebook, because there might be some other webinar stuff, last minute that we create. Who knows? But just keep linked with us, and we'll speak to you soon. So thanks for joining.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.